What up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Lions Nation Unite. I am Eazy. This is my friend Scott Bischoff, and we're going to break down some of the Detroit Lions edge prospects. And when we talk about edge prospects, we know Abdul Carter's there. We know Shamar Stewart's there. We're going to talk about the guys that are probably going to be around pick 28. We're going to be a little bit realistic with it. We, of course, could talk about all the star-studded guys that are going within the top 15, but the Detroit Lions aren't picking in the top 15 because they're a top 4 team in the league, in my opinion. But how you doing, Scott?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good, man. I'm excited to talk to you about some football. I always enjoy that, man. I want to start with a guy that's he's not getting too much hype right now, but I watched his tape last night. I watched his game against Georgia, and that is Jaden Ivey or Jared Ivey. I apologize. Jaden Ivey plays for the Pistons. I'll be messing that up if we end up making that pick. Yeah, my entire career.
Yep.
Jared Ivey out of Ole Miss, man. What's your take on him as an edge rusher for the Detroit Lions at pick 28 in particular?
So the Lions have a fascination with the big power edge dudes, and he definitely fits that mold. I think his play style and potentially the way Ole Miss has their edge players playing is going to turn off some people if they're looking for explosive first step stuff. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to find a great way to say it, but it looks to me like they have him measured and cautious at times with his first step, so he's not totally attacking the way he could, right? And because you can see it when he does go, he's got it all. He's got great power. He's got heavy hands. He's got all that stuff, but he can move too. So I think he's one of those guys where you look at the college production and you sort of throw it away and dismiss it because the Lions would have him doing very different things than, taking read steps or, being cautious and calculated with his movements. And some of it is like, if you watch the Georgia film, there's a lot of RPOs and stuff that Georgia runs with their offense. It's all RPOs. So that's not necessarily the best kind of film that you want to look at. So you want to look at like his true, like if you can filter it out, what are his when he gets a true pass set against a tackle, what does that look like? The thing that I think the Lions are going to really appreciate about his game is just how smart he is, because he rarely gets fooled. I mean, he is a very instinctive, cerebral guy who has an understanding of what offenses are trying to do. Again, the Lions would deploy him in a much more attacking manner.
Yeah.
And it's there where I think that, there's a little more meat on the bone than what he's shown at Ole Miss. Long arms. He looks huge, right? He's really good against the run. So I think that, if you listen to Kelvin Shepard the other day talking to Dan Miller about you have to earn your right to rush the passer by defending the run, he's there. He's that guy in this class. He will, he consistently chews up tight ends. If somebody puts a tight end on him, that tight end is losing, right? So, and that's good. You always want to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just going through my notes with him, he's super smart. Will not get out of position. Very heavy hands. He uses a one arm kind of move to keep to kind of jolt a tackle back, but he's really good at extending his arms because he's got power. All right, let's look at this play. So you can see on this play, there's the first one. You can see him use his hands in all these things, right? We're looking at a guy who's using his hands. There he's chewing up that tight end. You can see him just beat up that guy. There's the smarts.
Yeah.
And then the way he runs stuff down, right? So heavy hands, he extends his arm to stack blockers. I think that, so he works with a guy named Des Walker, who is down in Atlanta.
He's from Detroit.
Yep. And he is, he's a friend. He is an incredible pass rush coach, like incredible, coming right out of the Chuck Smith stuff. You can see Jared Ivey's hands and how good they are and you can see the way he's coached up to use those hands watching his film. So it gives him opportunities to rush because he will get a tackle's hands off of him, like, whether it's cross chops or, other things. Now, with a guy like Ivy, I wouldn't expect him to look like some of the other players in this class, who are, 240, 250 range, doing all the bendy stuff and the ghost moves and all. He can do those things. It just doesn't look as impressive because he's 280 plus pounds.
Yeah.
So where he's going to win is by softening the outside edge of a tackle, attacking half man type stuff, and then just kind of running through that contact and shortening the distance that he has to go to get to the quarterback.
Now, a lot of the stuff that I saw yesterday when we brought him up on the show, like after you were on, a lot of people commented they're kind of scared of and I don't agree with this, by the way, but a Josh Pascal. Can you just, for the people making those comparisons or are nervous about that being the case, can you draw the differences between the two and why you would think there's a higher upside in a Jaden Ivey versus like a Josh Pascal? Jared Ivey, I'm going to do that all my entire life. My Lord.
I get it. There is a player we're going to talk about in this group that is literally a Josh Pascal clone. It's not Ivy. Ivy's got more length, more functional length. That doesn't even mean he's got longer arms. What I mean by that is you can see his length give tackles a problem on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's much more explosive in his movements once he gets going, where, I look at Pascal and I think he's more of a 5 tech D tackle kind of D end, right?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily what the Lions do with him. So there's a power component of Pascal's game that Ivy might not have, but Ivy has more ability to get to the quarterback than Pascal does. But I understand that that's the concern, that you're getting a kind of just another guy athlete.
Yeah.
But I think that's where people are going to sort of, that's the jumping off point with Ivy, is that you can either view him as a regular, just a good athlete, but not a great athlete, based on the way he's, again, you can bring up the film and you can look at his first step and it's not overly explosive. You don't go wow with it. Right there, you can see that doesn't look like, an outrageous first step. But I think there's a lot of, I think you can extract more, out of his game. But watch him close here. I mean, that's Pascal's not necessarily doing that stuff at that speed. So I think he's quicker, faster version of what Pascal is, but much more capable of playing on the edge than Pascal is. But it's a valid criticism of his game. There are times where that get off does not look like it's almost like Mississippi doesn't want their guys, because the other guy too, Uman doesn't really, Uman Milan doesn't really get off that way either, and he can't. He's more of a finesse edge player. But so I mean, we'll see what the combine looks like. My guess is he's going to run okay, and he's going to look, like a good athlete. And then it's going to force people to go back and say, maybe he does have more quicks and up the field speed than we think, but he's got advanced hand usage. I think the versatility for him to play outside and inside and beat guards is there. I do think that, the knocks on him is that he needs to be more aggressive as a player. Again, is that an Ole Miss thing? And he's not a great bender, but finding great benders at 280 plus pounds, those guys go first overall, right? Yep. So it's pick 28, and we're going to repeat this. We're going to repeat this today. There's no great pick at pick 28 to play edge for the Lions. If anything, by the time the draft rolls around, we're all going to be feeling a little bit like, ew.
Yeah.
28, like, ooh.
That's how it's been these past 2 years to doing these draft assessments, is like, because one, you don't know who's going to be there. So it's hard to allow yourself to get excited for those guys, because like we're going to have the opportunity. unless
there's
conversation you want to have too is trading up.
Yeah, I do want to have that conversation. To me, there's one player I would do it for. It's Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And I think we, the problem is that, in this list, we're going to have a couple players who I don't think the Lions are going to be all that intrigued by. So you throw them out the window, right? And think, so we're going to talk about James Pierce. I don't know that the Lions are going to love his game. And then there's some off the field stuff. I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
You've read the same stuff I have with the off the field.
So just recently this week though too. It's not like, because at first I really didn't understand why. I look at that kid, and I know you're not a big fan of the pro comps or whatever, but like, I guess a way to articulate it for people. That's the only reason I like the pro comps is like and tell me if I'm wrong. I'd be way off here, but like an Alden Smith, if you could put the pounds on, he's got those long arms. Like Pierce, I like him a lot, and I think it's a great chunk of clay to mold something out of. But if there's off the field stuff, then like I don't know at risk.
That's the thing, is that I think he's more project than ready to go right now.
Yeah.
He's better defending. To me, he's better defending the run. He's a little more physical and a little more assertive defending the run than he is as a pass rusher. His pass rush stuff is all speed. The dog's going to go nuts. Just telling you. His pass rush moves, it's all speed to power. So it's hard to find really good examples of him being real bendy, and beating, like a tackle out wide or with speed or quickness, and then turning the corner. And I think it's because he's a very linear, upright player who's very, very tall and kind of spindly and tightly wound as a player. And he's got thin hips. So I'm not sure that you're going to be able to put a lot more mass on his frame and ask him to just chew up the edge as a run defender, even though he's good at it, and do that at the NFL level while growing as a pass rusher, right? So that's going to be the thing. Like, so if you combine the off the field stuff, whatever that is, if that's a thing, combined with his tape, I described him as skinny. Is Detroit going to even really be interested in that kind of a build? He needs to bulk up and power up, and my guess is that's a couple year project before he's really physically, big enough to play on the edge for them. He can close. He's fast. He's all that stuff. It's just he doesn't necessarily bend at the top of his rush the way you'd want a real a smaller player to bend. Let's just watch there. That's really nice with his hands, right?
Yeah. Long arms.
He's got long arms. He's 6'5". He's got all that stuff. I don't think that's a real good play by the left tackle. So
he's quick off the ball too.
Yeah, I mean, but even in that scenario, if you watch his path, there's not a lot of bend. It's just straight line stuff. So he beats him there. He runs through the running back. The philosophy is all cool.
Yeah, but
that's not a great example of. I mean, that's a nice play.
I apologize. No, I grabbed whatever I could find on Twitter. That's a guy like. For me, I feel like if he goes like a Baltimore or something like that, you can see him become, everything he can become. He just feels like a Baltimore Raven, like a 3-4 guy. Let him go play outside linebacker somewhere. He
does remind me of Odafe Owe, who went to is he in Seattle? Or is Owe in Baltimore? There were two of those guys like 2 or 3 years ago who were very similar players. One went to Minnesota, the other one ended up in Baltimore. And they're both tall, linear guys, and that's what he reminds me of. He's like that, He's that prototype.
I think he's in Baltimore.
Stand up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's again, like I think if he goes there, that's like a perfect landing spot for him, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
He might.
It's just I don't know if he fits
Stuff.
where the Lions what the Lions are going to be wanting. Right.
I heard someone say with the off the field stuff that he's close to like not even being on their board, which is crazy to me. Like if it's but we don't know these guys. I hate even.
No, I hear you, and it feels disrespectful to talk about it like that. Like
yeah,
but you're gonna find out that stuff's gonna come out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if people are talking about that now, we're gonna see that, right? Just as watching him on film, there are moments where where he really struggles to disengage. Where once he gets locked up, if he allows a offensive lineman to get into his chest, he doesn't have the power in his frame to really get off that block. So it's either a win right away where he's running pretty much in a straight line, and it's cool. There's not a lot of bend, or it's a loss because he just can't disengage. So, again, very early in the process, but I'm not sure the Lions are going to really love him as a player, considering he's in the low 240s now. He may play the game at the combine where you bulk up with a ton of water, and he'll measure in the low 250s, which everybody will be like, oh, that's cool, it's great, but he may not run, right? So, and then he'll run on his pro day, but he won't weigh in. So
yeah,
right. So that's a game that gets played, and it's I don't blame him.
That's what you gotta do.
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to go to Nick Scorton?
Yeah, I'm down. I am hurting for Scorton.
Oh, you're not going to like this. This is Nick Scorton is your Josh Pascal clone. Like he is. It is everything that you saw from Pascal. I don't know that he's exactly the same level of quickness that Pascal has. So I think he's a
slower.
If you considered Pascal in the 40s in that draft 3 years ago, my guess, and this is just me, I wouldn't look at this guy until pick 60. I just wouldn't. Right? He's 6'4", he's 280. Again, he's Josh Pascal like, but lesser pass rush skills. There's not a lot of twitch. There's not a lot of high end movement skills with him. To me, it looks like he moves okay, but it's okay. Heavy hands, he thumps, he'll jolt offensive linemen. I think he's a really good run defender, but you're getting kind of a lower ceiling as a pass rusher. And when I look at him play, I see more of a squeeze kind of edge player. Think of the way Pascal plays, where he's not beating. When he wins, it's not because of quickness or anything, either outside or inside. It's more he's running through players.
Yeah,
Scorton's the same kind of player, where you love the physicality, you love all that stuff, but you have Pascal. If you're looking to move on from Pascal and the Lions want another Pascal, then this would be, that's reasonable. Because of the physicality and all that stuff. You need people who can do those things. We're talking about edge rushers, and there's not a lot in his game that says he's going to win as a pass rusher, but to the detriment of what I'm saying, the Lions have shown us in the past that they prefer their players on the edge to be able to defend the run first and foremost, and he can do that. So, in this draft, in this particular draft, because it's so deep at both the defensive tackle and the edge position, I would think that in and around pick 60 is about where he's going to get considered.
Yeah, I know. This is Eric Glenn, so he's no longer here, but I also remember Dan Campbell kind of said, like, if the next guy we bring in, I want to do a lot of the same things on defense. And here comes Kelvin Shepard, who was, part of the Aaron Glenn tutelage. He learned the game under him as a defensive coordinator. But I heard Aaron Glenn say that they like the defensive ends. Like the reason why they like the big guys, the Marcus Davenports, Josh Pascals, they want to squeeze the pocket.
Yep.
And like you said, too, defend the run first and foremost. That's one of my favorite sayings in football. I think my second favorite is you got to earn the right to rush the passer. And that's those bigger body guys. Nick Scordon is that. So here's the thing, too. I feel like I've seen more than just a bull rush, but I also have to remember, though, I think we was a spin move in this one, the next play. This is also a college level tackle, not an NFL level guy. See, I remember, I believe it was Terrell Williams, who was just here coaching defensive line, told Pascal to stop doing this stuff because he wasn't good at it. Like, yeah, it might be in your repertoire and may work at a collegiate level, but like at this level, your best move is a bull rush, and that's coming from Pascal. So you're saying Nick Scordon probably the same type of guy. It's like it's the heavy hands, the bull rush effort.
Very similar. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that last rep, if we can watch it again, it's an interesting rep. That's good football savvy.
Yeah.
You can see that left tackle. He turns his shoulders way too soon. He makes it really easy for Scordon to get up the field, but Scordon's not able to bend and turn on him. Like even on that play, I don't know what this tackle. You could see the tackle bang himself in the head after that snap.
This big ass shouldn't be spinning on me.
Yeah, but the tackle's not using his hands. It's college stuff. So sometimes it's like, how much credit do you give? Obviously you give Scordon credit for being able to spin out of that and understand that the quarterback's coming underneath this because he knows that I've beat the tackle already. That's the thing is he's got enough. He had enough in that rep to threaten that tackle to kind of abandon his plan and be worried about getting beat up the field, right?
Yeah.
Where if I was coaching that left tackle, I would just tell him, that's a good play, like for the tackle, just to ride him past the pocket because he's not going to be able to bend and flatten to the quarterback. But on this one, he oversets, worried about the speed, and you can see him kind of lunge at him.
Yeah.
And, the tackle knows he made a mistake, but, again, you don't see the quickness where you think, wow, that guy's going to turn the corner on NFL tackles and it's going to be pass rush city with him. It's just not, right?
Yeah.
Shamar Stewart.
That stinks.
So when I look at Shamar Stewart, I think of a player like Calais Campbell, right? Okay. And this is a guy who we are saying is big enough to squeeze the pocket and do all those things. He does all the time.
And his get off is insane for how big he is.
It is ridiculous. For his size, his power, his ability to move, all that stuff. He is another one where you have to throw away the sack production. It's sort of like, where is it? Because with the way you move and how big and powerful you are, where's the college production with sacks? It's not there.
Yeah,
it's coming, right? So you throw away the idea that this was a dude who dominated, college tackles through his physicality and his size, which he did. He just wasn't able to get the quarterback to the ground a lot of times. But can he grow into that? Absolutely, he can. He has incredibly heavy hands. He's got long arms. He's very powered up. So you can see him, even if he doesn't win the corner, he's constantly moving tackles backwards. You can see he's got power in his, he turns speed to power, and then we'll convert that to bull rush, and it's impressive. He is a problem for any offense, both against the run and against the pass, but primarily the stuff against the run that's so impressive is him tracking stuff down from the backside of plays, where you can see it's all hustle, all effort, and then that physicality and most importantly, the athleticism just pops. It's like, it is so impressive to watch. So the notes, production is coming. Chases plays easily down from the backside. He can bend and turn at sharp angles to get to the quarterback. He can do all those things. So with some of these guys, you're not seeing the ability to really bend at sharp angles and that kind of stuff because of the mass they're carrying. He can do that stuff. right? His versatility is killer. Like that is a guy that you would play inside in your third and long packages, and it's just like good luck, right? Like think about him condensing inside and on the same side of the field with Hutchinson. Look, good luck, right?
Yeah.
I do think that he needs to develop better hands, more advanced hand usage to be able to stay clean. That'll help him at the NFL level. But this is a guy who if it works, and obviously you're looking at a trade up scenario, you'd have Hutchinson and this guy on the edge for a long time, and it's just not going to get much better than those two bigger dudes who are athletic enough to turn the corner, but big enough and powerful enough to run through guys while also being quick enough to win back inside. It'd be a bit of a murderer's row of edge prospects and edge players.
He feels like the next who he can be. I don't want to say he's going to be for sure because he's another product guy, but like project guy, I should say. But he feels like the next great guy, great product, pass rusher product to come out of A&M. They just keep coming with these guys. There's Von Miller, they have Myles Garrett, and I think this is the next one up. And they're all these huge, just freak shows. I grabbed some of his tape with Will Campbell, who's supposed to be
I'm not sure he's ever going to get to the Will Campbell tape is fun to watch. I'm not sure he's ever going to get to the ceiling of those guys. I mean, this dude's 280 pounds. Look at the way he attacks that.
Just his get off to me is insane. So to me, I said on the show, and tell me if I'm wrong, I said his basement is like Marcus Davenport. Is that fair? Is that too like underselling what Davenport is when he's healthy?
Yeah, I mean, but I think he's much better run defender than Davenport was. Davenport, the Saints traded up for Davenport. They gave up 2 first-round picks to go get Davenport. I mean, there's a lot to his game that is just there's a lot of the physicality, the polish to his game.
He's number 4, by the way, for anybody watching. This tape.
Yes, and everybody needs to remember this is he's going up against maybe a guy who's going to go the first tackle off the board.
Yep.
Potentially. So
top 10
watch
guys.
his hands.
Got held there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that.
Yeah,
there's so much holding that goes on in college, but.
Yeah, look at him.
Yeah, I mean, so he's kind of running through him. Will Campbell's really good, and Will Campbell has a plan. This is where there are times where right there is a great example of the bending around the corner, that last snap. This dude's 285 pounds to bend like that. This is that last rep was one arm, a little bit of bull rush, kind of collapsing the pocket. You can see it right there. Yeah. The Lions are going to look at that snap and think, man, we love that. Look at how much he moves Campbell.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean he's going to win all the time against a guy like Will Campbell. Because he's not. But like this.
Look at the arms, dude.
Right. And you can see in that snap, if we can go back to that one in particular, he takes Will Campbell's arm and just kind of rips it off of him.
I don't have a way of fast forwarding it.
That's fine. It's good. It's just, and I understand people are going to kind of roll their eyes at the possibility of trade up. And I also understand it's pre-combine, right? Mm-hmm. But this is a guy who I think is worthy of that particularly for where the Lions are, both in the short term and in the long term. Like if that dude hits, man, they're cooking for a long time. So the two things he's got to figure out and work just a little bit on is a little more advanced hand usage and having more of a pass rush plan. And those things do go together. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying he doesn't have things to work on because he does, but there's that with him. I love him as a prospect. I think others are going to start to talk about him like this as the process wears on.
Yeah, I big Shamar Stewart guy. I know my some of my peers, some of my buddies over there at Crunch Time, that they're not the biggest fans because they don't like the college production. But one like context that tape we just put on again. That once more that is going against a top 10 tackle, the top 10 draft pick, I should say, the tackle position in Will Campbell. The other guys, he's there for the sacks. He's just missing them. Or maybe Nick Scorton, the guy we just talked about beforehand, he's the one coming through cleaning up. He is causing chaos, and he's a monster in the run game. And I think Detroit Lions.
That's some of what we didn't show was the run game stuff. Like, he is a beast, and it's impressive to see him just get untracked and chase stuff down. Like, they'll run, inside zone away from him, and he'll track down the running back before he can make the cut up the field, kind of stuff. It's really impressive for a guy as big as him to do these things. The effort that's there and the ability to play against the run is very, very impressive.
And the reason why I think you absolutely have to trade up is he went to the Senior Bowl. He was there for what, 2-3 days, and he went home.
Yeah.
Somebody spoke to somebody, was like, "Yeah, you don't got to be here."
My guess is he's going to go somewhere around 10 to 12 in that range. You'd have to be really bold about getting up there. It would require a lot, but I think long-term about what he could be in a few years, both what he is now, but with what he could be as he develops as a pass rusher. Yeah.
And
but I also get it that, trading up is not necessarily for some people, they're going to scoff at the idea of trading up. And, I can feel the eyes rolling. Let's just leave it there. I can feel
it. Does it every year. You moved to 12 for JMO. You moved to the first round multiple times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He moves around. You don't have no problem doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the cost, though, I guess? And that's the real question. So what's it going to cost to go up and get him? Because
I was going to bring that up, and I just think that there's no great, trade calculator kind of a thing, but I don't know what it would. Obviously it would be pick 28, and my guess is,
you think a first and a third would do it, or is that too little?
No, I don't think that'd be enough. I think it'd be a first, a second, and a third, and possibly maybe even more than that, right? But you just don't know. But maybe the second could be, and I don't know. There's differing values on these things. It would cost a lot. It would. There's just no way around it. So I get it. That may be prohibitive for some people to even want to consider it right now, but it's just something to think about, because this guy's a different dude than anybody else in this class. He is.
So Daniel Jeremiah just did his mock draft 2.0, like they want to say Monday it was.
Yeah.
And I believe Stewart was at 27 just before us, the Ravens. What are the knocks that he could fall in this class? I mean, why would someone like have him that low?
Because he doesn't have a ton of sacks at the NFL level. Or I'm sorry, at the college level. There's not a lot of pass rush productivity there. I don't know why. I don't know how this guy in this class gets to that far in a draft where you might have 10 or 12 first round type players.
Yeah.
And beyond the first couple picks, they're all projection players anyway. They all are.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna argue with Daniel Jeremiah and his contacts and that kind of stuff. I think that, again, it's early in the process. My assumption through this whole thing is that Shamar Stewart's going to rise in the process, and
once they see that 10-yard split, they'll be all over him.
Yeah, I mean, if he runs quick and fast and all that stuff, it's going to change some things.
And again,
everybody go back to the film.
That's another thing that confused me too, because I know Jeremiah, his saying is he does rankings with his eyes, mock drafts with his ears, and him just falling 27 just doesn't make sense to me, especially if he left the Senior Bowl early. Because I think the only reason you leave the Senior Bowl early is your agent had spoken to somebody and was like, "We're interested in grabbing you," and, fairly early.
I think it's maybe not even that their agent spoke to somebody, but when you show enough through a practice or two, and everybody knows what that looks like, there's no reason to be there anymore. Like, hey, I showed it. I showed everything I can do, what I can be. Mike Green did the same thing, right? Like he ran over Josh Connerly the last practice he was at, and that was enough. Like, all right, I showed what I needed to show this week. We're good, so I don't know that. I mean, I'm with you. It definitely tells you some things, but we'll see. We got a long way to go.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If he's anywhere near 20, I could see Brad making the move. I mean, just last year you saw him move to 24 for Terrion. I think this kid would be. I think he could project to be better than Terrion at his position. Is that crazy or no?
No, it's not. It's not crazy. I think that if we want to consider what a trade might look like, what did you give up to go up and get JMO? You went up to pick 12, right?
Yeah.
So whatever that trade looked like is about what it would cost to do the same kind of thing, because you gave up
20,
wasn't it pick 34?
32. I think you gave 32 and 34 for 12.
Yeah, whatever it was. I don't know exactly, but they got pick 46 back.
Yeah.
So, and they gave up more, but so there's the framework around something that was pretty similar and recent.
So Lions gave up 32, 34, and 66 for 12 and 46.
Right. So
that ain't bad.
You gave up
for number 12
first. Yeah, you gave up a late first, an early second, and a late second for a mid-second and pick 12. So, I think the Lions, from a point score, and this is why I didn't want to do this, because from a point standpoint, in the trade, like the things that I looked at, the Lions won that trade by a couple hundred points.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, we can't use that as the framework for a discussion pre-combine around Shamar Stewart. You know what I mean? We just can't. Yeah. So it just
depends. Yeah. Who the other GM is too. If they're a dumb, all due respect.
Or maybe they value, players later. And like, I would understand him maybe not fitting great for some places and them not valuing this player, but really liking the late first possibilities of what they could do with pick 28 and what they could do with pick 60, and then maybe a comp third next year kind of thing. But we'll see. We can move on from him.
Maybe dial up Aaron Glenn. They need a couple picks to rebuild that stuff over there. All right, yeah. Moving on. We had Nick Gordon.
There's two more.
Mike Green.
No, I think Green will be gone. Okay. So I didn't really include him in this. I think Abdul Carter is obviously gone. Michael Williams will be gone. So
you think so? I was hoping he'd fall.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, he'll be gone. He's at Georgia. Yeah, he'll be gone.
So these next two guys, I'm looking more so as linebackers then.
So one of them is definitely a Sam linebacker prospect, but it's an important position for the Lions. That'd be Josiah Stewart. The other one, I know he's going to get talked about as that Sam linebacker player, but I don't think that he should be deployed like that, because he's so good coming forward that I wouldn't want him dropping off. I wouldn't want him dropping off the ball. And it's Boston College, Donovan Ezeraku. He had 16 and a half sacks this year. He is he'll rise in the process. I don't know that anybody's really talking about him much right now. But when it comes to the pass rushers in this class, now I'm not talking about Abdul Carter, because he does some ridiculous things. But amongst everybody else, Ezeraku might be the best pure pass rusher left, as far as quick speed, quickness, playing with leverage. One thing to understand is that at 6'2" and 250 pounds, he's not small. He's just a touch shorter than you'd prefer, right? I mean, he's bigger. He weighs more than James Pierce. It's just he's 6'2" and not 6'5".
Yeah.
So when you watch his film, he is constantly bullying and pushing, tackles back because he's under their pads because he's shorter. And he's got enough mass to move them, enough power, but he's got speed and quickness too. And then he's got just this ridiculous array of hand usage and moves. He does the Euro step all the time. He's got the ghost move. That's the kind of move where if you think about me and you in your kitchen and, you're trying to block me and I run underneath your kitchen table and you go, I don't even know how to touch this guy. And he's already by. And I'm not saying I could do this because we'd be calling 911 very quickly if that tried to happen.
I just pictured that whole scenario.
But that's kind of what it looks like. So you're taking a tackle who's 6'5", whatever, and forcing him to reach and bend kind of at the waist instead of drop his knees. And before he can kind of react to that, Izaraku's underneath him and gone. And he does that, and he can turn and bend in a way that almost nobody else in this class can.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So watching him, he's got really long arms. I mean, I think it's reported that he's got 34.5-inch arms. So my guess is we're talking about a guy who's going to have longer arms than some of the 6'5" pass rushers. You can see that on film. You can see the one arm move. I think that negates the height concerns because you do have your desired length there, right? He understands leverage and is built for it because he's low to the ground. He's got great hands with nuance, keeps him unblocked and on track. Again, great hands. He's constantly swiping at. Reminds me a little bit of how Hutchinson was always kind of swiping at an offensive lineman's hands to kind of keep him off of him.
Yeah.
The lower body agility is ridiculous at the top of this guy's rush. It just is. He's fun to watch. Again, I described him running underneath tackles. He gets them off balance with his first step too, because there's a lot of the Euro step stuff where he steps outside and then crashes back inside, and he's got him off rhythm. Like they don't know whether he's going to beat him with speed outside or whether he's going to kick back inside or whether he's going to bull rush, run through, and he's good at really taking on half man stuff where you can see him then kind of wiping and swiping hands off of him. This is where the Sam stuff is not where I would apply it to him. When Boston College puts him in coverage, and it's not a lot, it might have been, a couple times a game. Mm-hmm. It's generally where he'll just drop off to the boundary side of the field where it's a shorter, more compact side of the field. Yeah. He'll just drop off 6 or 7 steps and just kind of hang around. He's not covering anybody. He's not really in coverage. He just drops off into an area, right? Mm-hmm. And that's, I don't necessarily think that's what the Lions would be doing with a Sam linebacker prospect. So to me, Izaraku he's got to be a player who comes forward as a pass rusher. He's good at defending the run. There are times when he'll get out of his gap trying to make plays, right? But the last thing I'll say about him is he's being coached by Don Brown. And I think if you look at all the pass rushers from Michigan in the Don Brown era that have made it and worked at the NFL level, it'd give you some comfort with this guy. Because he's got all the technical stuff and all the athleticism. And to me, we'll get into this, I suppose, at the end. But there's a couple ways, and the Lions love to double dip. I could see them double dipping at the edge position this year. I would love it if they took this guy because I think his pass rush chops are kind of like elite and in the range of everybody else who's going to be there at, say, pick 28.
So what, because he feels like in our system, at least, like a DPR guy, like almost like a James Houston. And that's the only thing that kind of scares me as like prospecting him for the Lions, just because 6'2", 240.
He's in the 250s. He'll be in the 250s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's
what I'm saying. Like, if he was at that mass, if he was 6'4", he'd be 260 to 265. And you think that's plenty big enough.
Yeah.
But the thing is the arm length that I think there's plenty of bulk and there's plenty of power in his game. It's just, he's got the arm length that you'd want out of a 6'4" dude anyway. So, but I get it. And I understand what you're saying. This is where when we talk that there's going to have to be some level of the Lions are going to have to want to get out of this mold of these huge power rush guys. Because, if Jared Ivey is not there, there's nobody left right now. When I look at what's going to be around at pick 28, there's everybody else feels like a total reach. Like, no. But then there's this guy who defends the run, plays his ass off, is physical, does it all, but gives you some pass rush arsenal that you don't have really with anyone else outside of Hutchinson. So, is he a designated pass rusher? In some ways, yes, but in some ways, no. I think he can play the run and be effective doing it where he can earn his spot and earn his way, to being pass rusher and just lighten stuff up. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a souped up version of James Houston, but I have to watch more tape. I'd have to do that, I guess. For me to fit it for the Detroit Lions, like you said too, they would have to get away from what they've been doing with those big.
A little bit. They'd have to bail on having to squeeze. I mean, you have enough of those guys, right? And so that's the double dip part is do you take this guy at 28 and pair him with Nick Scorton at 60 and just say we're flooding the zone with these guys and you let Pascal walk in 2 years or after this season and you've got your replacement there kind of thing. Does that make sense? Like you could do that. Or you could, the other way is to take, potentially take, I know this was so far into the future to be talking like this is just nonsense. But the other way to do it is to take like Jared Ivey at 28. And I think we would all, now I'm not, I don't know that I love Jared Ivey enough to take him at 28 just yet. There's a lot, I got to figure it out, right? Like,
yeah.
But he definitely fits the mold. And I think there's a lot more to his game than what he's shown so far. But if you paired Ivey with a player like the guy we're going to talk about next, to me, that is as dynamic a way to start the draft as could possibly get, considering you're picking at 28. And that's pairing Ivey with a player like Josiah Stewart from Michigan. Because then you are getting a Sam linebacker prospect. You are getting a player who you can drop into coverage, into zone type stuff. He can play man too. But there's so much, look, just the violence in which that dude attacks going forward is crazy. Like, I mean,
he's a Tasmanian devil.
It's the same stuff. So when he's number 5, that was 2 years ago. He's number 0 this year.
Yeah.
When he goes, this is everything we're seeing is he does this stuff because he's short. Josiah Stewart is 6'1" and 245 pounds. He is up underneath these tackles immediately, right? He's able to jolt them because he's got so much power in his hands. And the way you can't say enough about the way he moves and what he does physically.
Yeah.
He is such a well-coached player too, where he works and he's constantly, running half man kind of stuff and leaving his outside arm free to make plays. Right. Mm-hmm. But to me, his pass rush win rate is crazy high. Like, PFF's going to put numbers out there and he's going to be like, his true pass rush win rate's going to be 30 or 35+%, or maybe even more. Right. We saw on anybody looking at that, what you just showed, you can see what his leverage looks like. And at 6'1", he's already underneath 6'5" dudes. And he's got enough power to walk them. Like, there's no issues with his power. He's got a great first step, a great get off. We can see him jolt linemen when they get off balance and out of rhythm. And he'll do that because he can win outside and inside. So he's going to keep them guessing. He's another one of these guys who's physical enough where he can soften the outside edge of a tackle and then pull up the rip move and just kind of run through a tackle, not having to run around him. Very instinctive, well coached. We talked about that. He's got great closing speed. He can chase everything down. You can see that easily on his film. He's got phenomenal hand. I'm going to talk about him as probably my favorite pass rusher. He is he's just got it all as a pass rusher. He really does. And then you throw in the idea that he's super instinctive in coverage, and he kind of knows where the ball's going. So they'll drop him off. He's very capable in coverage. He understands route concepts. You can see him sort of figuring it out as it's happening in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that this is a guy that you're probably going to have to trade up for in round 2. So,
unless you take him, would you be taking him at 28 egregious when your defensive coordinator is your former linebacker coach? Do you think that you see that happening?
I would think it would probably be a little on the egregious side, but if you move, let's just say you traded out of 28 and you've got pick 35 and, whatever else you got, and maybe, possibly Ivy's still on the board and you've got ammo to go up and get both of them.
Yeah.
I would love that. But, I would think that their needs are more on the edge given what we know at this point, unless they're talking about going a little more hybrid, odd front type stuff, which I would love the Lions to do. That's a scenario in which you'd have Reeder as your nose. You'd have Aleem as a 3 or a 5. You'd have Pascal as a 5, and then you'd have Aiden Hutchinson walked up and playing a little bit like TJ Watt does out of a 2-point stance on the end of the line of scrimmage. Like, good Lord, that's beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
But given what we currently know, they're going to stay with the 4-man front. They need a Sam linebacker prospect. They need somebody who can play in coverage and do some things in coverage, but also can win as a pass rusher. And to me, Josiah Stewart is a complete player. I would not hate it at 28, but a lot of people would.
Yeah.
But I fully understand why they would not do it, because of a need for a bigger edge presence.
Yeah.
But if that presence is gone, then you're looking at, I could see them doing it just because of how well and how often he wins as a pass rusher. And particularly with him and Ezeraku, I trust them to win more at the NFL level because of their advanced ability with their hands. Those are the guys, if you're not talking about like Gumby, who does ridiculous things combined with hands, which is a little bit what like Ezeraku is, by the way.
Yeah.
You're talking about guys who win because of their power and their ability to use their hands. And just, both these guys can do it. So it would require the Lions to get out of, in some ways, Ezeraku specifically would require the Lions to abandon the big edge concept. Josiah Stewart, I think, is a Sam linebacker prospect. Where I don't think I would call Ezeraku that. I think he's very unrefined and lacking as at least showing it on film as a player in coverage. So I wouldn't want him playing that position. But with Stewart, I would, and I think that he could give you a lot all over the field. Plus, he's a menace as a pass rusher, and you could, put on the film, just watch it. He's ridiculous. He's another one who left the Senior Bowl early.
Yeah.
After 2 days, right? So
phenomenal too.
Yeah.
Those were the 3 standouts for me when it comes to the edge rushers from the Senior Bowl was those 3 guys. And left there early. Pro style defense all the entire time there from Mike McDonald, then to Wink Martindale. Yeah, and I wouldn't be mad at you because Brad Holmes, right, took the running back at number 12. Everyone's scratching their head. Truly takes a BPA approach, and you're looking at this guy as that caliber. I wouldn't be shocked by it. I definitely think it's something they should look into doing.
Yeah, but
Barnes is leaving.
The frame in which, I guess the lens in which I'm viewing this whole thing is that nobody's going to like what's around at 28.
Yeah.
And looking ahead, like, do you like Jared Ivey enough to take him at 28? I don't know that they will. I think they will, but who knows? But if he's gone, I mean, if they like him enough at 28, other teams are going to like it's pick 28. If
Yeah.
he's gone, and what's left is like, oh boy, yeah, I could see them valuing what Josiah Stewart does enough and what he brings to think that, yeah, he makes sense for where we're at with pick
Yeah.
28. My guess
I
is
mean,
they would try to get out of round 1 if that happened, but
well,
that's
yeah, I
all
think
speculative.
that's
I
the
don't know.
line of thinking right there. Trade back in the second round,
Yeah.
get extra ammo.
Yeah.
And then, and if you don't get Ivy in that scenario, then you get Gordon or whoever else.
Yeah, I mean,
We talked about Landon Jackson a little bit, like a late, or maybe Jack Sawyer, second round guys.
Maybe at pick 60, sure, but
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah. One time if you're trading back and you're grabbing Josiah.
Yeah. It's just you still need an edge presence. You need a bigger player. I mean, there's going to be opportunities for those guys. It's just you're not going to be drafting. You're not going to be finding a guy with potential good ceiling as a pass rusher too much later than pick 28. So if you view Ivy as a guy who's ascending, like I do with some meat on the bone, then you're gonna kind of have to take him at 28. But it's early.
Yeah. BPA, he's better than Ivy. So I mean, I wouldn't have no issue with it. Yeah. With Brad drafting, like I can't really the way his track record, you can't have too much of an issue with anything. Yeah, I get a 3-year window too for the people that are freaking out about the production of Terry Arnold.
Yeah, but everybody needs to just let these guys simmer and get rolling, and I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and we've had examples of that on the team too. I don't get why people are being impatient. Like we've seen, took time for Iffy, took time for Derek Barnes.
Yeah, but it's just this was the opportunity in the window where this would have been a great time to play a team like Kansas City in the Super Bowl because you'd have blasted them, right? I think you'd have. Yeah, a healthy Lions team would have rolled over Kansas City in the Super Bowl this year. Much like
I gotta be honest, man. Before you got hurt, I was in love with Davenport, and I was like, okay, I see what the prospect. Yeah. And maybe bring him back at $6 million deal or like a little prove it deal. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is he's just, the injury problems are so bad that you don't know. Relying upon him is problematic. So even if you do bring him back, you almost have to still do everything we talked about anyway, right? And I would love if you want to bring back Davenport, that's cool. You still need to be thinking about taking a player like Ivy or whoever it is. And there's still Josiah Stewart sitting there who is like screaming, "Hey, I can do anything you want at a very high level. Come get me," kind of thing. Again, I know it's not even combine time yet. So
next week, are you going?
Don't to be determined.
I'm down.
You're down to go?
I'm down to go. We'll figure that out off camera.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be down for the road trip. I'll make sure no burritos that day. That way the car stays clean, fresh air.
Oh man. I'm not doing that.
This I'll wrap it up here too. But like just the undersized guy that has everything you need, different positions. But it reminds me of that Mikey Sancho conversation from last year. They take him. He actually played outside, and he played phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, it just requires a little bit of unconventional thinking, but Ezuraku does. Josiah Stewart does not, because they need a player at the Sam linebacker position.
Yeah.
He's good in coverage. He's just a ridiculous pass rusher. So there's so many things that you can do with him. And this is what this is what they wanted from Barnes when they took Barnes. And I know they took him later in the draft, but when you see a player like Stewart's ability to rush the passer, that guy's not going to be around a real long time. He's just not. He's really, really highly polished player who. Yeah.
Scott, man, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a busy day. We got Team USA playing later on today. Anybody watching this, if you guys enjoyed this content, please, please, please make sure you hit that like button. Be a friend, tell a friend, and share it. I want to do this again. Maybe we'll do some defensive tackles. I know that's a deep position for the guys too. So, and at 28, again, if we know he's taking a BPA approach, let's look at these deeper position classes.
Well, they need to look at that because I don't think McNeil will be ready in week 1, and nobody's, it's a need, So,
what DJ's gonna play for? What, 2 or 3 more years? You know how long he's gonna be here as well.
Yeah, good point.
Scott, man, you want people to follow you on Twitter? Are you still active on Twitter or what?
Not really. I mean, I'm on Twitter, but it's not like I'm throwing content on there. I'm just
yeah. Well, hopefully you'll be able to find Scott here, man. I appreciate you. Make sure you guys follow LNU. Make sure to grab your merch. And until next time, anything you want to shout out before we get going?
No, we're good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, man. We'll see you.